Any luck?
I chased down that lead on Jerry. Dead end. You?
I got nothing.
Todd, man, you got something to do with this?
Yeah, don't you know it's the Todd and Jerry show? You find one knucklehead, you're gonna find the other.
I know it was just a fantasy, but it was a pretty good one, wasn't it? Dreaming of the life we could have had as a family. Jason, I should have never gone to see Heather Weber. Can I ask you something?
Yeah, sure, anything.
It's about the night that my baby died.
Sam, I was wrong. I should have never sent those guys after McBain. And
Jason, no, that's not what I'm asking. I've been so angry at you, and as long as I made it your fault, I didn't have to stop to think about what really happened. I mean, I barely remember sitting in that motel room that night. I mean, I think the rain had stopped. I'm not sure. I can't really remember, but I do remember wrapping my son up in a scarf, which seems so stupid to me right now, because why wouldn't I use a blanket or a towel, something that would really keep him warm? And then I decide to leave. Why? I mean, where was I going exactly?
You said the baby wasn't breathing right and you wanted to get help.
I was in the middle of the road and it was closed. So why didn't I take him back into the motel?
Sam, you weren't thinking clearly.
Why didn't I bring him back into the room where he was warm? Why did I take him off into the middle of the woods?
Because you were trying to find help.
I walked into the middle of the woods following a light. And I wound up at a shack in the middle of nowhere. And then I left him. Oh.
Sam, you didn't leave your son. You were in shock. You should have been in the hospital. It's my fault that you weren't.
No, by the time I found that shack, Jason, I was so sick and I was dizzy and I was afraid I was going to drop him, so I put him down. But why? Why did I put him down? Why didn't I take him with me? Why did I leave him outside in the cold?
Sam.
Jason, I left him outside in a storm. I'm his mother. He needed me, and I left him. I left him outside. My baby died because of me. It was my fault. He died, and it was my fault, Jason.
A bunch of rich people got together today, and Manny was trying to convince them to buy the counteragent from Jerry. My guess is they're meeting somewhere right now.
So who else was in this merry band of thieves?
All the usual suspects, including your father.
I should have brought him with me.
You thought you were going to drop him. Sam, he didn't die because you put him down. He died from respiratory failure.
All alone.
You did the best that you could. You were so weak when I showed him to you, you didn't even recognize him. You said it wasn't your baby.
Because I didn't want to believe it, Jason. I didn't want to believe that it was him. So I came up with this sick fantasy, but it's impossible. What, that somebody switched him and put a newborn in his place?
You know, when a child dies, the pain is too much. You know, you look for a way to make it not true.
I know it was my son that died that night. I've got this feeling that if I would have held on to him and just never put him down, he would be with me right now. I'm so sorry. You realize that this is probably a matter of life and death.
You're right. Dante, how you feeling?
Oh, you know, hanging in there.
I hope you're home with Lulu.
Because you know, everything else is unimportant.
Like you, Sonny?
Are you home with Kate right now? Or are you waiting for Jerry Jacks? If you think I'm gonna let him hand over the cure and disappear with the cash, that fever is making you delusional.
The ORs are still full, so it's gonna be a few hours before we can get that bullet out.
I can wait.
You want something for the pain?
No, I'm fine.
Patrick can prescribe you something.
Look at me, son.
I want you to know Ewan died.
At least you're safe.
I'm still trying to figure out how a person that I considered a friend worked with Jerry to poison the whole town.
He swears he didn't know what Jerry was planning.
It doesn't change the result. Jerry still got the pathogen in the water.
He said it's going to be 48 hours, which unfortunately I think is correct, which means the fever is progressing for everyone.
Where are you meeting Jerry?
Sorry, son.
If Jerry smells a cop, the deal's off.
If done right, he won't see us coming.
I'll call you later when it's over.
You get a location?
Patrick, is it possible to pull the medical records for Sam's baby?
Actually, they're in Sam's chart here.
Can you tell us why he died?
Says he died of respiratory failure. His lungs weren't developed.
So if Sam and the baby made it to the hospital, you could have put him on a ventilator and he'd still be alive, right?
Did nobody
I'm just trying to be clear because he died. He wasn't in the hospital. He couldn't get proper care.
I doubt that the ventilator would have done any good.
Are you sure? Because I mean, when I asked Kelly, she said that that's what she would have done. She would have put him on a ventilator.
Yes, your baby would have been put on a ventilator, but the baby's lungs weren't developed. It wasn't breathing properly. So I'm sorry, but there was no way to save your baby.
What do you mean?
Mr. Corinthos hung up before I could pinpoint his location.
Because he knew we were tracing him.
Well, I was able to find the cell tower that handled the call.
Show me. What's the radius of that tower?
5 miles.
5 miles, okay. So we are looking for a place where Jerry can pick up his money and make a getaway, and it's in a 5-mile radius.
So my son never had a chance to live?
There's a high probability that he would have died of respiratory failure no matter what.
Okay, but was it anything that I did while I was pregnant to affect the development
Sam,
of
there's
his lungs?
nothing that you could have done differently. In fact, it says here that you were very diligent. You told Kelly Lee to look into a genetical disorder with the Cassadine family beta thalassemia.
Yeah.
Was that a factor?
No, not in the MA. It doesn't say that, but your son had a worse condition, hemophilia.
No, I do remember Kelly briefly mentioning that, but she thought it was weird because it didn't show up in any of my blood work while I was pregnant.
That's not why he died.
Your son died of respiratory failure, okay? His lungs weren't developed. Now, I'm sure if you would have got to the hospital sooner, we would have done anything we possibly could to keep him alive. But in my medical opinion, there's nothing that we could have done. Now, we need to get you to radiology.
Can I see the file? The baby's death wasn't Sam's fault. And it wasn't yours either. Victor.
The team's checking the entire area.
That's over 75 square miles.
Yes.
They could be anywhere.
Maybe I can help.